Hello everybody. Today I just want to go over what I had to do with this Armattan Japalura 3-inch frame during this build, and or swap out of parts. Actually, I just swapped parts from another frame, but I ran into a few issues with this frame. Nothing when it comes to putting it together. I mean, putting it together is so easy. It'd be easy to get to your components. You can pull this top panel off and just get to your stuff right there. If you have to, you could pull, the bolts, 8 bolts on the bottom here, and take the entire top portion off and get to your stack that way. But it's really easy frame to put together. The only issue is making your components fit and fit proper or nice so they don't go anywhere. Now, the stack was not a problem. This does 20 millimeter stacks as well as 30 millimeters. I'm running a 20 millimeter stack, and it's the HDLRC F438 stack, and I'm still running the same 1407 3600 kVs, and so I'm going to go bumper to bumper here and go over each issue and let you guys know what's going on in case you run into a similar problem. So let's start with the front end with the camera. I have the Runcam Micro Swift 2, and it's a 19 millimeter micro camera instead of the 28s. Now the Armattan Japalura 3-inch, it does a 28 millimeter mounting. So I had to buy the Runcam adapter plate that goes in and makes your 19-inch camera a 28 millimeter mount. So that's the only thing I had to buy for that. Now, the camera sits back far enough that you can see this part of the frame right here in the goggles. So I'm going to have to figure out some way of possibly moving this forward about 4 millimeters. I think that's all it's going to take, maybe 5 at most. Don't even think it's going to take that much, but 4 to 5 millimeters, move it forward. I would kind of wish this mount actually already did that, just to compensate for the frame here. Or they had an option that moved it forward about 4 or 5 more millimeters to get this frame out of the view. But I haven't found any kind of adapters for 19 millimeter cameras to 28 millimeter mounting that actually will do that. As for camera mounting, when I put this in, I use the Armattan screw and washer that goes in the center hole for your camera mount, and it stuck out too far from the props I'm using. I'm using the Gemfan 3052 flash props, and when I put those on, the little screw head that was here, the prop would hit that screw head in the center. So I had to get a pan head type screw and put that in there with a really thin washer. And now the props don't hit. And some other props may be a little bit shorter and not hit it, but that's what I ended up having to do because I have a bunch of these Gemfan props. So that's the only two things about the camera. Now the other thing I was thinking about the camera to get this out of the view of the goggles was to move this down and only use 2 bolts, 2 screws right here. Just use these top 2 right here, the center and the top one, and just eliminate the bottom one and just move this center one down to here, and then move this one down to here, and see if that would get rid of the view. But I don't think that's going to solve the problem because this frame does stick out quite a bit for this kind of camera mount. But the other thing is, if I did any more down tilt, it would expose the camera end right down here. So I don't think that would be a good thing. I wouldn't want to damage my camera so easily. So I'm just going to leave it where it's at. I'll just deal with the fact that I can see this in here until I can figure out another mounting system here to move it forward a little bit. And I guess everybody's going to have to deal with it on my FPV videos. I can probably get used to it. A lot of people, it'll annoy you a lot, but I think I'll be all right with it. It's not that bad, but it's still there. Okay, so next thing, my 20 millimeter stack in here, it fits on really, really nice. You can see there's the top board right there. That's the VTX, and there's still room in there. And I was able to put my RSXR in there with no problem. Nice fit, plenty of space, and there is my Hellgate buzzer is up in here. I had to move it forward, and I was only able to double stick tape half of it down. but that's because I wanted to be able to see my VTX numbers here on the readout. And that's if I ever have to use it, which I don't think I'll ever have to, but it could happen. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to go to is I got my antenna wires for the receiver running down into these antenna tubes. And I got some antenna tube holders that are the 90 degree, and they sit on your standoffs, and then the antenna tube goes into the other side of them. Now the standoffs that I have on this are 5mm high and 4mm nut driver head. 4mm nut driver fits on them. So they were a little loose, I mean really loose in these antenna tube holders. So what I did was I took, and plus the 5mm high is too short for my standoffs, so I had to stack two, and you can see it sticks out, the other one sticks out, but I stacked the two. I used a longer M2 bolt, which are exact same kind as the ones that came with the Armattan, but they were just longer, and put that in there and stacked the two standoffs. Then I put a heat shrink over the top of that, shrunk that down, and then when I put this over the antenna adapter back on, or holder back on there, it was a little snug putting it on, but it went on, and it went on snug, and it's not going anywhere. I may even put a little bit of maybe another little piece of heat shrink up here on the outside of this part, just to heat shrink that down to that, so this cannot slide up at all. So yeah, I don't even have to zip tie these down. I mean, they're good. They're not going anywhere. Let's see. Okay, the Lumineer Axi Micro antenna. This mount on the Armattan is made for SMA mounts, and I didn't want to have that extra connection going to my VTX and have the SMA mount and then have to buy another antenna, and I'd use a stubby antenna anyway, but this antenna works out really nice. So there was no way to mount it on here. So what I had to do is I got a 1/4 inch rubber grommet, and the problem I had with the grommets I have here, they were 1/10 millimeter or 1/10 inch inside. I don't know what that is in millimeters, but 1/10 inch inside hole. And this, I actually had to hone out the grommet enough with a needle file, rat tail, to be able to slide this in here. I just put the wire through. After I mounted the grommet in here, I pushed the wire through, pushed this into the grommet, got it all the way down there. It's pretty good, and it wasn't going anywhere. But just in case, for good measure, I put a little hot glue on the back of it just to reinforce it, so there's no way it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. Okay, so that almost covers everything, I think. There's a couple other things here. The this mount here, I kind of don't like the way this is. I kind of wish this had a second pair of screws. Like this would be just a square, and it would mount it with 4 screws into here, so that antenna would not go anywhere at all. But if you do hit this antenna, it could push it around, and it's just not possible to get it super tight because the aluminum will strip inside here. I did notice when I got this and put it on here initially, the screw, it seemed like the threads were already stripped or were like half existent. So I put a bunch of thread lock in this side just to make sure that screw doesn't go anywhere. But you really can't tighten them down too tight to make this invulnerable, unable to move. I can't even think of the word right now. I'm just out of it today. Oh man. Anyway, this is what you get for staying up all night putting your quad together. But yeah, that's all I can say about that. I mean, I wish they just had an extra mounting here, and it would just stay that position right there, because then you can put your antenna out, whatever, and it shouldn't be a problem after that. But this will flop around if you hit it. Now, as for battery mounting, that was the only other thing I got to mention here. Battery mounting on the top. I made a little pad for the top because I didn't want to use the pad that came with it. It's not a sticky pad, it's just a foam pad. I like these sticky pads that I can pull off and wash off and stick back on. They hold the battery a lot better. But on the top mount, if you mount your battery on top, you have the problem with your balance lead possibly getting into your props, which is not good. You'd have to zip tie the balance lead to the battery lead, and then I'd have to have a longer pigtail for my battery, for my power there, and then run this down in here. That would be the only way I could do a top mount with this. You know, even if I put this way, that makes it even easier for this to get into the props. So you still have to zip tie it, and then, or tie it down to it, and then move this down, you know, get it plugged in with a longer pigtail that way, because the pigtail on this one's kind of short right now. I just haven't changed it yet. I was thinking about putting about another inch on it, but I'm going to be using a bottom mounted battery, because I'm just used to the way it feels when it flies with the bottom mount. So anyway, on the bottom mount, I made another sticky pad for the bottom, and here we go. Put this on here. The problem with this is that I'm using these batteries that are what are these? Tattoo 850s? Yeah, Tattoo 850 4S. Sometimes I can't remember what the heck I got in my hand. But anyway, put the battery on here, and when you bring your strap up, there's space there. You see? There's a lot of space between the strap and the battery. No matter how hard you crank it, it's going to have space there on both sides. Right there, you can see it now. Now with this, I can tuck my balance lead back underneath the strap, but I still have to, you know, try and finagle this down to get this on this shorter pigtail. So I'm thinking about getting something that I can put in here onto the battery that takes up that extra space in between there to tighten this in even better, so it doesn't want to slide sideways at all. With the sticky pad, it shouldn't be a problem, but I don't want it sliding back and forth at all. Not even a possibility of it. So that's the other thing I need to think about, is what I can put on here to take up that space. Okay, I think, oh, the other thing is I got 200 millimeter straps. I got a bunch of these 200 millimeter straps, and they're long enough. It's just I'd say maybe another 25 millimeter. So I'm going to have to probably get some 225s. This is, by the way, 16 millimeter wide strap for the 20 millimeter stacks. If you're doing bottom mount, that's what you need, is 16 millimeter wide. So that's what this is, 16 by 200. But I am going to need to get a 16 by 225 for this quad, because it is taking up all this extra space because of the 30 millimeter mounting holes possibilities. The frame is a little wider down there, and that's what's pulling this around and pulling it out. So there you go. That's pretty much everything. I don't think I missed anything. The best thing about this Armattan Japalura 3-inch is the lifetime warranty. Honestly, I cannot afford to keep buying frames every time they break, and if I go and fly and have a minor crash and the frame breaks like my other one did 2 times, both frames, I gave it a second shot, minor crash again, broke a second frame. I can't afford to be forking out that money every time I go flying, practically, because it's inevitable you're going to crash. But this Armattan frame just looks so much beefier. It really does. It looks so much beefier. It looks different. It feels different. It sounds different when you tap it, you know, when you just have the bare frame. So I think I'm going to be happy with this, with the warranty. If something does happen to break, then I got the warranty on it. I won't have to go out and blow a bunch of money on another frame and have the same thing happen again. So there you go. Armattan Japalura 3-inch, and all the things I had to deal with my build here. Just in case you run into the same problems, you got some pointers here, like the little rubber grommet, the camera mount, the antenna tube holders, things like that. Yeah, that's and also the sticky pads. You can make these out of the cell phone, little cell phone pads you can get from the auto parts stores. Matter of fact, this one here, This is a cell phone sticky pad. That's all it is. Just cut them out. And when you punch your holes, you got to use hole punches, and don't you got to actually tap them around and around and around, because this stuff is kind of squishy and it doesn't want to cut right away. Now the sides and stuff you can cut with scissors, but it leaves a little, you know, like beveling there and stuff. So you're better off just taking a knife, big long knife, and just pressing straight down on it and cutting it out. If you try to slice it, it just makes it all nasty on the edges. But yeah, this is a cheap way to make some battery pads. You know, if you can't find a battery pad to fit your quad, you can do that and cut out your own. So anyway, I'm done rambling. I know this video is a little longer than I wanted it to be, but I covered everything I could possibly cover on this. And don't forget to subscribe, guys. Hit that notification bell, like, dislike, whatever you want to do. Leave a comment. And we will catch you on the next one. So thanks for watching.